Welcome to Lesson 15. This is your last Adobe Illustrator lesson, and with this one we'll be creating a text block cut. Okay, it will look something like this when I finish. Okay, first thing I want to do is start with a rectangle. Actually, I'm going to start with the text, makes it a little bit easier. I'm going to type out my word. In this case I have already selected my font and selected the size of my font at 140 points. This is a stencil or a standard stencil bold. Okay, next I'm going to use my regular selection tool, and I'm just going to reshape this a little bit by stretching it out. Okay, and then I'm going to create a rectangle that is quite tight all around my object. And I'm making sure when I'm drawing this, or you can also do this after you've drawn it, but I want to make sure that my edges are equal all the way around. So you can do this by eye, or you can also select the text and the block and use some of the distribute tools on your align palette. In either case you can do those. I'm going to send this to the back. I'm going to change my font to a red. Makes it easier to see for one, and it also makes it nice to look at. Okay, next thing I want to do is use my regular selection tool and select my text. Go to Type and Create Outlines. Okay, you might recall that Create Outlines will create objects of each part of these letters. Since these letters are separate because it's a stencil letter, it will create multiple shapes that create each letter form. Once I'm satisfied with that, I can go ahead and select my text and select my rectangle. Go to my Pathfinder palette, and I'm going to use that first one called Divide, and that will create separate shapes for each of these objects. I'm going to ungroup those objects so I can select individual objects. Okay, so I ungrouped. I'm going to select the side of this O and delete it, and the side of this O and delete it. Okay, once I'm satisfied, I can take all those objects and I can regroup them as a single object. Then I'm going to decide on the techniques I want to use. I used a scribble technique, and then I added a shadow to this logo. I'm going to go to Effect, Stylize, go down to Scribble. Move this off to the side just so you can see it a little bit. And you can change any of these settings that you want just to get the look that you want. I went with a fairly tight spacing. I didn't want too much detail appearing inside this. It's just a little bit of detail popping through. But I want to keep that pretty simple. Click OK. Then I'm going to go to Effect, Stylize again, and in this case I'm going to choose a drop shadow. You can click on Preview to see what this will look like. And if you're satisfied, you can click OK, or you can change any settings which you wish. And that gives you your basic text cut block. And in this case I added a scribble effect and I added a shadow effect. And that could again be a very simple text logo for a company. Okay, and that is the end of lesson 15. So you should have completed all 5 of the objects in lessons 11 through 15, or actually 6 of the objects since there was 2 gradient meshes. And you should be pretty comfortable with using most of the Adobe Illustrator tools at this stage. I have not covered 100% of this software. There's no need to do that at this stage. But I've given you enough tools to create those initial 3 exercises that you will be turning into the class blog. And you'll also be able to use all these tools that I've shown you to create the graphics for the rest of this class. As you work with Adobe Illustrator, I do encourage you to experiment with a lot of different settings and a lot of different effects and stylizing tools, things like that that are available within this software. There are also additional tools that I haven't shown you yet. They're more advanced tools. I don't want to overload you quite so soon. Later in the term, if it gets to the point where people are quite comfortable and they're ready to learn more advanced techniques, then we'll certainly look at some of those advanced tools, and I'll do additional demos at that stage. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed learning from these lessons, and I hope you've had good success. And I will talk to you during the discussion boards.